Buenos días. Vamos esta tercera definita. I'll translate for those that do not understand Spanish. Good morning for this third lecture on spirituality. And as you can see, so you can see the plan of the talk, already here you see. So what we have done during the two first lectures is first the first part on the physical basis of spiritualities. Okay, it's not this. Okay, so what we have, the first part was physical basis of spirituality, the GMR, the application to the artists, and all the device. And then the second part, we started with classical spirituality, TMR, STT, the application, MPTA, microwave oscillator, ST oscillator, continuous motion. And so today I will begin with this part with the introduction on the new concepts, spin accumulation, pure spin currents. That new concept that is important to know, and the application, for example, is important to understand the physics of CPP GMR, the GMR with the current perpendicular to the layer, the lateral spin valve, the type of device used in many experiments today, in particular with graphene. So, this spin accumulation effects that do not appear in usual GMR with current in plane GMR are necessary to introduce when one goes to, for example, to the GMR with the current perpendicular to the layer. And this appears clearly, I have seen at the beginning, that in CPP GMR, the scaling length is the mean free path. That means the GMR exists when the thickness of the layer are smaller than the mean free path, a few nanometers. But on the contrary, when one look, for example, a typical experiment of CPP GMR, with the current now is going through from one layer to the other layer, then one see, for example, this result of the magnetic-resistance ratio as a function of cobalt thickness that can obtain GMR even for very thick layer. And so, because the scale length is no longer the mean free path, but what is called the spin diffusion length, the length on which over which the spin polarization can diffuse. And the difference is that in CIP GMR, there is no flux of spins, of spin polarized current from one layer to the other layer. Okay, there are as well flux of spin in this direction and this direction. On the contrary, when the current is perpendicular to the layer, there is some transport of flux of spins from one layer to the other and so on. Okay, and this one, simply, you see, there is no relay flux, vertical flux of current, vertical current. There is compensation between all these paths. Okay, and so this, and the difference is that when there is some flux of spins from layer to layer, at the interface, there are what is called spin accumulation effects. And this spin accumulation exists in CPP GMR. This is the scheme for the measurements at the Michigan State University of CPP GMR, a layer between two superconducting layers, and the current can go vertically. Also in layers, multi-layer deposited in pores, and also in lateral spin valve. In lateral spin valve, we have also some flux of some current going from forging material through this interface to the non-magnetic material. Okay, there is some. And then again to the magnetic material. It's more or less like that, but the structure is lateral. The interface this is the interface. There is some noise on the. Okay, I don't know why. Maybe I am close to. Okay, maybe I will be better if I. Okay, so this is the type of structure for which it is interesting to understand the spin accumulation effects that exist when one goes from, for example, magnetic material to non-magnetic material, we are at the same time here. Okay, so in fact, what occurs when there is a current going from a ferromagnetic material to a non-magnetic material? Of course, that means that at long distance on the right, the current is mainly carried by this spin direction, the blue one, and on the contrary, when one goes far on the left, the current is equal in two channels. That means that in between, there is some decrease of the current in this channel and increase of the current of this channel. That means that this spin will accumulate across, in fact, this can be discussed. The effect is the spin accumulation. That means this large flux of spins accumulates. There is splitting of the chemical potential, the Fermi energy. The Fermi energy increases for this spin direction. Decrease for this spin direction. This is called spin accumulation on both sides. This is an exponential increase and exponential decrease, and this difference in the Fermi energy makes that there are some spin flips that progressively transfer a part of the current from this channel to this other, to the second channel. So this is the spin accumulation. The spin accumulation is a splitting of the Fermi energy, delta mu, and this splitting induces spin flips, because in fact there is more, there is an overpopulation of this spin direction, relaxing to the other spin direction. So this is a spin relaxation due to spin orbit effect in general. And at the same time that this spin flip occurs, the polarization of the current decreases from the polarization on the right to the equal zero polarization. Okay, so if one defines the spin current as the difference between G up and G down, you have this decrease, or the polarization, this ratio. We'll see the equation. There is the scaling length for these exponential variations is the spin division length. The spin division length, this expression is the Fermi velocity multiplied by the square root of the product of the momentum relaxation time by the spin relaxation time, the time needed for the spin to flip, this time being longer than this one. Because the spin flip is due only to spin orbit effect, small spin orbit effect. In fact, on the contrary, the spin division length will be if one replaces tau SF by tau. And so finally there is this spin division length is longer, sometimes much longer than 100 times longer than the mean free path. And these variations are exponentials. Okay, and this physics can be described by what is called the Dirichlet diffusion equation for spin accumulation and spin current. And in fact, one defines a electrochemical potential, mu, spin dependent, which is the sum of the electrical potential, in fact multiplied by E to have an energy. So this is independent of the spin, the electrical potential is, and there is the addition with the chemical potential, that is the Fermi energy, depending on the spin. So the total, the electrochemical potential depends on the spin, and so the electrochemical potential, mu, replaces the electrical potential. And then there are, you can see the equations. In fact, there is some equation expressing that the variation of the spin current, G up minus G down, is related to the relaxation of the spin accumulation with this characteristic spin flip time. So this is simply expressing that there is a relaxation of the currents due to the spin flips. And also there is this classical relation that the currents, spin up and spin down, are related not to the electric field, the derivative of V, but to the derivative of the electrochemical potential. And one obtains that all the variation of mu are a combination of exponential and linear variation. V can have a linear variation, the slope with this electric field, and plus exponential variations. And what is important also to take into account, so this equation allows to find this variation that you can see here. Spin accumulation, and so the spin accumulation beginning and then decreasing, the difference between red and blue, and the variation of the spin current. And what is in this here, this has been drawn without taking into account what is called interface resistance. In addition, there will be also important effect from the fact that there is an interface resistance, that is a jump of the electrochemical potential proportional to the spin up or spin down current and to the interface resistance for up or for down. In fact, the interface resistance depends on the spin in general and must be introduced also to make the continuity between on both sides of the interface. So, for example, I explain an effect that is interesting to understand is at what has been called conductivity mismatch. I prefer to call spin relaxation mismatch. Suppose that the spin relaxation is much faster, as usual, in the magnetic material. That means that for the same, if you have simply this symmetric spin accumulation, there will be much more, okay, I don't know, maybe on the other side it will be better. Okay, there will be much more spin flip on this side than on the non-magnetic side, and that means that the transfer of current will be predominantly on this side. That means if the spin relaxation, as usual, is much larger in the ferroelectric material, the current, the spin variation will decrease, will be almost lost before the interface, or almost lost, something intermediate between the two. And so this is a general situation for spin injection from a magnetic metal with fast spin relaxation into a normal metal, like copper or a semiconductor or graphene. And so what is, so it's difficult to inject a spin current into a non-magnetic material with a very long relaxation time. What can be done is, you will see many examples, is introducing, one can say also, to explain that, another word, I don't know very much, that in fact there is a backflow. In fact, this effect sometimes is decreased as a backflow. That means that the current cannot penetrate, there is a backflow of spins compensating the injection. This can be, the solution can be, is in general introducing interface resistance, spin-dependent interface resistance. Any spin resistance is, any interface is spin-dependent. And then this introduces a discontinuity in the electrochemical potential to obtain finally these situations with a smaller spin accumulation on the magnetic side, and so a more balanced spin relaxation on the magnetic and non-magnetic side. So by introducing this interface resistance, this is a general remedy to finally restore the spin injection. That is the propagation of the spin Breuer's current on to the. So this is what is described by these equations. So the other language is, say, introducing a tunnel barrier, a contact interface resistance stops the backflow, but this is another language. Okay. So now I will see how this concept, this equation can be applied to CPP-GMR or to the lateral spin valve. CPP-GMR, that means this is a typical profile of the electrochemical potential in a tri-layer, magnetic, non-magnetic, magnetic parallel configuration. So that means at the approach of the interface, on a long term, there is no spin accumulation. At the approach of the interface, there is beginning some splitting, spin accumulation. The blue spins are accumulated. Their electrochemical potential or Fermi energy. In fact, the main slope is the electrical potential. And in addition, there is a spin accumulation that splits blue and red here at the interface. And then at the other interface, this, so that the slope is smaller, so that means that the blue current is slowed down here, the red current is accelerated, so that, and then on the end, the opposite occurs here. Here, this is the red, there is a accumulation of red and depletion of blue, because now we have again to fabricate a spin polarized current in the red direction. And so you have this typical profile. You can see all this. This is a spin accumulation here. It increases and then decrease, becomes negative and decrease again exponentially. This is a typical profile of the spin accumulation in a simple tri-layer, one current going from the left to the right. And this gives this. And on the contrary, if the magnetization are anti-parallel, then there is still, in fact, then you have to accumulate this blue spin direction, but again, because you have inverse the magnetization, you have also to accumulate the, you have to accumulate, make some spin accumulation, that this spin accumulation slow down the blue current, but here you have also again to slow down because you have the reverse and you have this profile. And finally you can see how appears the CPP-GMR if you look at the prolongation of the electrical potential at this infinity and this infinity, you have this drop. This is the additional resistance due to the tri-layer, and in the anti-parallel configuration, we have a larger drop, and the difference is a CPP-GMR. So you can see all this equation is complex, and it's not simple, but what I can say is that in the series of experiments, for example, in this review of Bass and Pratt, the experiment of CPP-GMR on, say, maybe 1,000 type of multilayer has been analyzed by using the drift diffusion equation and doing more or less this calculation to derive all the parameters, that is, the spin-dependent resistivity and the spin-dependent interface resistance. So I do not enter on the detail, but in fact, people know this equation and can apply. And now the other, this, for example, when one introduce in this scheme interface resistance or some complication due to the discontinuity of the electrical potential at the interface. But all these sort of things are well known and well described, for example, in this review here. So today, many experiments are done in lateral spin valve with lateral spin valve. With blue is a non-magnetic material. It can be a semiconductor, it can be a metal like copper, silver. This is ferromagnetic contacts. And there are two types of the interface here, with eventually an interface resistance. And so this is like a CPP-GMR experiment, except that the current is flowing in horizontally, yeah? but it's like a tri-layer, magnetic, non-magnetic, magnetic, and the voltage, the variation of the voltage is the CPP-GMR. In fact, you have difference of voltage for the anti-parallel and the parallel configuration. You have something like that, going from the left to the right. There is an inverse. This is a free layer, inversion of the magnetization, anti-parallel configuration, then again inversion of the other layer and back to the parallel configuration. This is like a CPP-GMR effect, this delta R. But generally one does now is working with a non-local voltage. In fact, the current is injected here, goes to the left, and what occurs anyhow at the interface is a spin accumulation. A spin accumulation like that. Then on the left there is the spin accumulation decreasing progressively. There is only the green line of the electrical potential. And on the right, you can see if there is spin accumulation, that means that the spin, red spin will, the up spin will diffuse. A progressive decrease of the spin accumulation on this side, described by the equation I have indicated. On the contrary, this depletion of the blue spins also decrease, so the spin accumulation progressively decrease going to the left, with a scaling length which is the spin division length, LSF. And then there is this spin accumulation, yes. And if one looks at the, so I draw also the spin accumulation in the electrodes, going. And there is some spin accumulation. I suppose that this magnetic material is going upward to infinity, and there is this exponential decrease of the spin accumulation. Then, if we measure the potential between the normal non-magnetic material and the magnetic material, because they don't feel in the same way the spin up and spin down direction, the magnetic material will be more transmissive for example, this spin direction, there is a voltage, because now there is a current flowing going from mainly the red spin direction. And there is a non-local voltage. This non-local voltage as this one, in fact, in general, this voltage and this appear. For example, when you go from the left to the right, parallel, and then anti-parallel, there is a voltage appearing during the anti-parallel configuration of these two, and then again it becomes parallel. And this voltage, as this one, in general, this voltage in some condition is half this one, and both are in fact related to the spin accumulation here. Facts. Delta mu is mu up, and the delta V is proportional to delta mu. Simply with a factor of 2, this one is twice this one. But generally, many experiments are done in this configuration because, in fact, this signal is on both sides of 0, plus or minus. If there is no spin accumulation at all, there is no voltage here, and there is plus or minus. Here, the voltage, this delta R, is on the top of some constant signal. This is some variation of the resistance, and this signal is plus or minus. So this is the physics of the lateral spin valve, and this signal is used to, as for the CPP-GMR, to know all the to know the spin accumulation, to know the polarization of the current, and so on. The other thing that can be said is that in this part of the sample, there is no short current. The short current is going this way. There is a circuit is in this way. So what occurs in this part of the sample? In fact, that means that the slope of the electrochemical induces a current of red spin to the right, And the depletion of the blue electrochemical potential attract a spin down, blue spin to the left. And so in this part of the sample, we have what is called a spin current. A spin current, there is no charge currents, simply there are up spins going to the right and down spins going with the same intensity of current to the left. This is what is called a pure spin current that is something used in many devices, in many experiments today. And what simply to symbolize what is a spin current is spin current is associated as this G up equal minus G down. One says that the spin current is G up minus G down, that is twice G up. And the charge current, corresponding charge current is zero, because there is compensation between the two spin directions. So this concept of fusion occurs in many experiments. And how to describe these effects is to apply the Triff diffusion equations to describe this profile of the electrical of the Fermi energy and electrochemical potential, and by taking into account also the spin-dependent interface resistance. In fact, for the same reason for what I described before, if, for example, the spin relaxation is stronger, larger in the magnetic material, that means that more relaxation, if the spin accumulation is similar on this side and on this side, along the relaxation will occur mainly in the Fermi material, and the spin accumulation will be much smaller, and there is no spin current here, and so the effect will decrease to zero. And so the condition also in many experiments is to introduce a interface resistance, spin-dependent interface resistance, to allow the spin current to penetrate into the non-magnetic material. So we'll see several examples of this effect. Okay, questions? So this is, you see, yeah?
Yeah, and I have a question about the channel.
What?
The channel that you have in this normal permission.
That's
The size of the channel.
in general, in the experiments, the size, because one wants to have some signal here, so the size should be of the order of the spin division length. For example, in a good metal like copper, the spin division length is 1 micron. So all these devices are in the micron size, in the micron range. Okay. Yeah, of course, if you work with a metal with a shorter relaxation length, you have to work with a smaller. Okay. But generally, in many devices, there are a lot of devices today in spintronics based on this scheme with the micronic sizes. But if you, for example, in some materials, if the spin diffusion length is only 10 nanometers, you have to work with size of the order of 10 nanometers to obtain a signal V, probing the splitting between the two chemical potential, electrochemical potential here. In fact, this signal is a measurement of this splitting at this point. If we are too far, it becomes zero. And, okay, of course, one needs to be at distance shorter than the spin diffusion length to have a signal and to apply this equation and derive what we want to know, the interface spin up and spin down interface resistance, the coefficient gamma characterizing the spin asymmetry of this interface resistance, and the equivalent coefficient called alpha characterizing the spin dependence of the resistivity in the electrodes, in the magnetic electrodes. Okay, and so this can be solved, for example, in this case, the equations are very complex. of course, but in this simple case, which is similar to this one, but with local voltage, the delta over R is given by this expression, where you can see appearing supposing that the main effect comes the interface resistance. Gamma is the spin asymmetry of the interface resistance. This is the interface resistance. In fact, the interface resistance is RT star 1 minus S plus gamma. RT appears here. And RT appears here. This is what is called the spin resistance of the channel, which is the product of the usual resistivity multiplied by the spin diffusion length divided by the width, the geometrical factor. And so this is the expression that allows to interpret these signals and, for example, to derive gamma in this case, and to derive also what we want to know, the spin resistance of the channel, which is the products, and we want to know, we know in general the resistivity, but we want to know is the spin diffusion length. And in fact, if one analyzes this signal with this sort of expression, or this signal with a similar expression, a little more complex, to be on the same screen, one possible to extract the spin resistance here, and so to derive the spin diffusion length. What, in general, what we want to know, the spin diffusion length we want for graphene, to see if in graphene the spin diffusion length is very long or not. Okay. So finally, this summarizes the problem. You can see all the profile of the chemical potential. You can see the two types of measurement that you can do, local or non-local. And in general, the signal, this signal delta R, is something that can be used to derive gamma, for example, and the spin diffusion length. In fact, in most experiments, we want to know the spin diffusion length here. Of course, this expression has been derived when the main effect comes the interface resistance, but of course, it's even more complex if one adds some spin dependence on the resistivity in the two metals here. Okay, so example of experimental result and example of the role of the interface resistance to avoid the backflow of electrons. In fact, this is experiments of the group of Otani in Japan on a structure with permalloy, silver permalloy. This is a non-local voltage measurement. You can see the experimental results here with a change of the signal from positive to negative when one goes from parallel to anti-parallel. This is a non-local voltage, because when you go to anti-parallel, you have an inversion of the, now if you reverse this metal here, you will feel no longer the red but the blue, and you reverse the signal. And in fact, what you can see from the delta R as a function of the interface resistance, they try with several interface resistance, MGO, of several thickness and treatment, a tunnel resistance. Generally, to have the good signal, you need a tunnel junction, a large interface resistance. If not, there is no injection, and there is what is called relaxation mismatch. That is, that if the interface resistance is very small, that means that all the relaxation will be in the magnetic material. There is no longer spin accumulation on this side, no longer spin polarized current on this side, and the signal decreases to zero. And what you can see, small interface resistance, zero signal. Increasing the interface resistance, you prevent the backflow, you prevent in this part of the sample, that means that the relaxation is merely here, there is no spin polarized current in the non-magnetic channel. You increase the interface resistance, you isolate the channel, you don't measure the spin relaxation, you reject, there is no longer spin relaxation important in the magnetic material, and you restore the signal here. And the condition is when the threshold value here, the inflection point, is when the interface resistance is the product of the resistivity multiplied by the spin emission length, of course, with a geometrical factor, thickness, width, etc. Okay, so for example, from this experiment, it's easy to by detecting this point, to know the to know crossover, to know this quantity, to know LSF, because you know the resistivity of silver. So in these experiments, with the resistivity of silver, they have derived a LSF at 10K of 1 micron, more or less 1 micron, and it becomes 0.5 micron at room temperature. Okay. So this is a typical experiment on lateral spin valve with the role of the interface resistance to really look at the spin relaxation in the channel and the spin propagation in the channel. If the interface resistance is too small, there is no spin injection in the non-magnetic channel. Okay, so this is, you will see many experiments of this type. I continue, so another question? Okay, so in fact there is another way to work with the interpretation of this lateral spin valve results is the Hartley effect. What you can do also, so in a lateral spin valve you inject, and so you have a spin polarized current going to the left, a pure spin current going, the current is going this way, and you have a pure spin current going to the right. And if it remains polarized, see, it remains some spin accumulation at this point, between a magnetic contact and a non-magnetic contact, you have a voltage. But in our experiments, you add a vertical magnetic field. This vertical magnetic field induce rotation of the spins, and so you change the signal, and the final result at zero field, this was the non-local voltage, for example, for one direction, and then it oscillates this way. Okay? And from this delta B is, in first approximation, is inversely proportional to the spin relaxation time. So in fact, this sort of experiment is often used to measure directly the spin relaxation time or the spin diffusion length, okay? So you can see an example, the first model, but it's not really a good model, but now there are other models more sophisticated introduced by Yedema and co-worker in 2002. So this precession are due to the Larmor precession. In the magnetic field, the spin rotates this way. And for example, again, experiments from, but this, there is a trick in this experiment. That means generally the expression of this paper does not take into account the effect of the resistance, contact resistance of the interface between magnetic and non-magnetic. And so these expressions are only valid if there is really a very large interface resistance. And in fact, if it is not, it does not work. For example, is the experiment again by the group of Otani, silver permalloy with an interface of MgO or without interface resistance. You can see with the same silver, yeah, one obtain different angle curves with apparently a much shorter relaxation time for the same silver. This is due mainly because the usual interpretation, because in fact there is the effect of the absorption of spin by the contact, the effect that the spin relaxes on the other side of the contact. And so in these experiments with the interface resistance small. In fact, you measure a short relaxation time, a large width, because a part of the relaxation is in the ferromagnetic contacts. And on the contrary, here, this width is really related to the spin diffusion length in the contact. And so this corresponds, in fact, the transition between these two regimes is what I say, the inflection point of the curve I have already shown for delta R. Okay. And so finally, be careful with some interpretation of the Young effect, because most experiments so far had been interpreted in with the equation of Yedema, and when be careful, they do not work. For example, they do not work. This is an example. Or finally, if you use this curve, you do not derive. You are obtaining a too short, a very underestimated spin diffusion length. Okay. But the Japanese group have developed also the theory, and without finally interpreting these results with the previous theory, but with a new theory developed by Izuki et al., this paper, using the theory of Yedema, you'd find 18 picoseconds, and with this new theory you have 40, twice. So you simply to say you that you must be careful with the interpretation of many results in lateral spin valve. In fact, the right expression can be found here. Okay, so it was. Is it a little complex? Okay, you see this equation, three-dimensional equation are not simple to write. The expressions are very long. Okay, and another example of lateral spin valve is lateral spin valve with graphene. And many experiments have been also performed to measure the spin diffusion length for graphene. The idea was that graphene with a very small spin recoupling, carbon, light elements, should have a very long spin diffusion length. And so many experiments have been performed to look at the spin diffusion length in graphene. And typically, this is a typical experiment, so again, injection here, the current going to the left, and to the right, there is in the channel of graphene a pure spin current with a exponential decrease of the spin accumulation, like that, as the spin accumulation is decreasing, and we measure, one measures the non-local signal between a ferromagnetic contact and another contact here at long distance, a non-magnetic contact. One measure more or less the spin accumulation, the delta R is, and you can see the variation of the delta R, the distance of the channel increases. And so, typical only results to derive also the spin diffusion length, 2 microns here in these experiments. On some graphene. In fact, this is a result with a relatively long spin diffusion length, but if one look to the general results on the spin diffusion length in graphene, in fact, in general, the spin diffusion length is much shorter than what is expected from the theory. Theory from the spin of it, often one expects something like more than 100 microns. And generally, the relaxation time the spin diffusion lengths are smaller than 1 micron, of the order of micron. With the best results are obtained is, for example, up to 12 microns for graphene encapsulated in BN. In fact, it seems that in many cases, you don't measure the intrinsic spin relaxation in graphene. There are stronger influence from internal effects. You have some effects due to proximity with charges in the substrate and so on. And in fact, to really obtain long relaxation time, one needs to protect the graphene. For example, encapsulation between two boron nitride layers. And so there is, for the moment, I think that the problem of the spin diffusion length in graphene is not clearly solved. Okay, In my opinion, it does not need to be solved because in most cases, the real spin equivalent depends so much on what is in proximity. And so in any device, if you have contacts, if you have absorption for the contacts, you will have a relatively short spin diffusion length that the intrinsic spin. So the problem is not so interesting to know really. In fact, in each device we will have a different relaxation time, a different spin diffusion length. And so there is a large dispersion of results due not only to the different quality of graphene, but different protection, again, external influence, absorption by the contacts, by the too short, too small interface resistance. And for example, I'll show you these results. These results, some result in series of graphene for different interface resistance. You can see that the spin relaxation time is much shorter at small resistance. It's what I say. I have seen also in the result of Japanese graph with silver. So that means that all these values are not true. They are due to the fact that the interface resistance is too small and there is, you measure partly the relaxation of the contact. There is no barrier between the graphene and the ferromagnetic contact, and on the contrary, when you increase, you are increasing also by using the Yedema results, not taking into account the absorption by the contact in these experiments. You are progressively you restore the real relaxation time of the graphene here in this range. But these results have been obtained in a modeling, not taking into account in the analysis of angle results the spin absorption by the contact. You measure a part of the relaxation comes from what occurs in the ferromagnetic layers. And, but this result has been also revisited by the Japanese group and with new expression taking into account for the interpretation of the angle results of the contact resistance, of the effect of the contact resistance, and then with this analysis one finds that more or less all the relaxation time are at this level here. So you means you must be careful in looking at many papers on the spin relaxation in graphene. And I see that because most groups have taken into account the previous modeling that was not taking into account the role of the contact. Okay. In fact, in our experiments, we are doing another way. We do not use the angle effect, but use more or less what has been done for silver by the group of Otani, say varying the interface resistance above graphene, and looking at the fitting the results with this variation of the non-local or local signal. In fact, if it's possible to identify the inflection point, this is directly a measure of spin diffusion length. And it's not necessary if you are looking to several contacts to be able to vary along this line. It's possible to directly measure. It's what we are doing. If not looking at delta R, but delta over R, but delta R as a plateau is at the end, as R increases, it decreases here, but there is a plateau corresponding to this straight line here. And this is an example of results with CVD graphene. Delta R over R, the plateau and the variation for several samples of different lengths of CVD graphene. And from the fit of this curve, it's possible to derive for this graphene a spin diffusion length which is longer than what done with a measure with only experiment 40-60 micron for CVD graphene. And for epitaxial graphene of very good quality, very large mobility grown on silicon carbide, in fact, in this paper we have found some sample with 100 microns. So this comes from the high quality of this graphene, and also for a different type of interpretation, taking into account for the measurements the role of the interfaces and not the simplest Hartley measurements. Okay, so anyhow, this question of the spin diversion length in graphene is not well solved. It depends too much on external effects, obviously, in general. Okay, so, okay, I have still some 10 minutes, maybe, if you agree. Huh? Or if you have some question on this first part, because now there will be the beginning of spin orbitronics, that is many effects related on spin orbit effects in non-magnetic materials. So I can simply introduce the spin orbit effects. In fact, the general idea is that in classical spintronics, one converts charge currents into spin currents, or spin polarized currents. In fact, a spin polarized currents, maybe I forgot to say, in fact, any current, charge current when with J up equal J down. This is a charge current. Spin current is J up equal minus J down, charge current equals 0, and only spin current, pure spin current. General case is J up different from J down, but you can already decompose in a charge current, J up plus J down, and a spin current with J up minus J down. Okay. Okay, so, and generally, so the spintronic in general is fabricating spin polarized current or pure spin current from charge current and detecting spin currents by converting them into charge current. And in classical spintronic that we have discussed so far, this is done by putting on the way of the electron magnetic material. What we have done so far is only using in spintronics to create the spin current for this conversion between charge to spin or spin to charge ferromagnetic material. But now spin orbitronics is another type of spintronics using not at all magnetic material in general, but using spin orbit effects in heavy non-magnetic metals like platinum, tantalum, tungsten, bismuth. Okay, and so using only this relativity correction to the equation on quantum physics, which is called spin orbit. So it's a sort of relativistic spintronics. So the spin orbit coupling, you know what is it in atomic physics? This is coupling between, for example, in an atom, the coupling between the spin and the orbital momentum. That means that the energy is different for this spin direction for electron orbiting clockwise or anti-clockwise. And as I say, these spin orbit effects are, are only large for heavy materials. Typically, we'll use in spin orbital what appears is tantalum, tungsten, iridium, platinum, lead, bismuth, tin too. I will show simply a typical example of what can be obtained by spin orbit is the skew scattering, will be one of the mechanisms of the spin Hall effect. And what is skew scattering is, in fact, when you suppose spin up and spin down electrons scatter by an impurity with including in the scattering potential, the spin orbit coupling, that means that for this spin direction, the energy, scattering energy, the scattering potential, will not the same for L clockwise or anti-clockwise. That means that the electrons, due to this difference in the scattering potential, for example, we prefer to go around the impurity if it's scatter clockwise this way, and will be more probably scattered to the left. And on the contrary, the effect will be reversed for the opposite spin directions, and it will be more predominantly scattered to the right. This is a skew scattering introduced a long time ago. So that means that due to this effect, a typical, so I show a simple and typical example of what can be obtained with spin orbit, scattering a simple model of scattering by impurity potential, including a spin orbit term. So that means there will be, if the current is vertical, a current vertical will induce a current of this spin direction to the left and a current of this spin direction to the right. And see, this is what is called one of the mechanisms of the spinel effect, what is called the spinel effect, generation of a transverse spin current. This is a pure spin current. Electron going, there is no charge current, of course, and the general effect of this skew scattering is that it will accumulate this spin direction on the right and this spin direction on the left, and so that because of course they cannot go beyond the edges, and in fact also the repulsion by the charge will progressively decrease this spin up current, spin down current on this direction. So finally, what you will obtain, but this in general there will be simply a spin accumulation on the edge, except if there is also, for example, a layer here. Suppose a layer, it will be, for example, a layer of cobalt. Now there will be a possibility to propagate these spin currents to this injection, what is called injection of a spin currents. There will be what can we expect? That this spin current will be injected. The spin accumulation of this spin direction will diffuse on this side. On the contrary, the depletion of this spin direction will attract electron to the left, because there is, of course, if there is spin accumulation of spin up, there is automatically spin depletion or spin down, charge neutrality. So this is spinel effect will be, in this simple picture, will be used to inject a spin current into a magnetic layer, for example, to switch the magnetization of cobalt. There will be another type of switching by a purely relativistic effect. A purely spin orbit effect is what I will describe the next time, all the experimental spinel effect, but I started simply to show a typical example of what can be done by harnessing the spin orbit effect in this simple example. Of course, this skew scattering is one of the mechanisms of the spinel effect. There will be also another mechanism called side jump, scattering with side jump, another one called generally intrinsic mechanism. Okay. And so, for example, another example, if I can to begin with general example of spin orbit effects, another example, typical example of this symmetry breaking by this spin orbit effect, because there is at the base of spin orbit there is a symmetry breaking, and you see the separation between clockwise and anti-clockwise. This is typically the symmetry induced by the spin orbit effect. The Dialogensky-Moria interaction at the origin of the skyrmions, in the same way, I will not describe the calculation, in the same way at the interface between a metal like platinum with a large spin orbit coupling, this atom, and a metal like cobalt. In fact, in the same way, if you consider the scattering in this of electrons by this triplet of atoms, two magnetic atoms, S1, S2, and an atom with spin orbit effect, what appears is not only the usual exchange interaction, it is called the RKKY interaction, but this chiral interaction, the Yaroshenski-Moria interaction, that of this form, D12 will be a vector along the interface, perpendicular to the distance between these two vectors, D12, and you see this type of interactions the energy is negative if, I don't see if this clockwise, if the rotation from S2 is anti-clockwise, if you make the calcul, and on the contrary, the energy is positive, it is clockwise. So this is a type of equation of interaction important in many new phenomena, in particular the creation of the magnetic skyrmion. The chiral domain walls are important, of the magnetic fermions. So the mechanism is a little more complex to describe that the skew scattering, but it's more or less of the same type, and this is the origin of what is called the skyrmions. And so it was simply today to start this part on spin orbitronics with two simple examples of what can be expected by exploiting the spin orbit effect. And you say, creating spin currents, in the preceding example, you were creating spin currents only in platinum, for example, and here you are creating a new type of interaction with another symmetry, anti-symmetric, a chiral interaction also by playing with the interface of a magnetic material with a non-magnetic material. So I will start on this basis next lesson to start spin orbitronics. So spin orbitronics, I will describe three-dimensional effects, the spinel effect of metal like platinum, and also this spin orbit effect can be even more amplified in 2D system, in a two-dimensional electron gas, and so we'll see that what can be obtained in two-dimensional electron gas at Rashba interfaces. Rashba interaction is a spin orbit effect at the interface of topological insulator, a new type of material with two-dimensional surface electrons with in fact sometimes emphatically described as a new state of matter, and with this typical and also they are interesting in interface between oxide. Graphene with spin orbit can give also interesting spin orbit effect, and also the physics of skyrmions that I will not describe this here. Okay, so there will be the plan of the next lesson, spin orbitronics. Okay, and I thank you for your attention. So today it was a little more complex than the two first lessons, of course, but it's quite normal.
I have another question about the lateral spin valves. So, is it possible to have domain walls in the ferromagnets? So, it's something that you can find in this?
Okay, so if you mean there is a mixing of two domains with opposite magnetization, and then you have a half, you destroy partly all the effects. Okay, in general, in these experiments, to get from to have the local or non-local signal, you have to put a sufficiently large field to have only a single magnetization in the electrodes of the lateral spin valve. Okay. Yeah.
When you showed us the chemical potential
Yeah.
against the position of
Layer, there are two configurations, one with the spin accumulation up in one interface, and in the opposite, the spin accumulation down. I read somewhere that there is kind of spin accumulation of holes.
Of
Holes.
holes.
What is this? I cannot understand why.
No, generally, this picture is made for electrons. For holes, it can be, you change, okay, but the similar picture can be shown also if the conduction is by holes. Huh?
We can, I don't know, speak about spin polarized holes. Is that?
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's the same way in semiconductors.
Theoretically, it's comprehensible,
okay,
but
yeah.
not physically for me.
Yeah, we can do, in magnetic semiconductor, you can carry holes or electrons. And so, of course, when you are going from electron to holes, every time is you have to think a little more to convert what this figure for. But the principle of this figure is always the same. In fact, in the non-magnetic material, when you are going from, you have a spin polarized current, and you have to transform a spin polarized current into a non-polarized current. So you have to decrease the velocity of the spin-up electrons, the faster electron, to decrease the velocity, to put an additional potential to decrease the velocity of the faster electron in the magnet and to bring them to a equal velocity with the other. And so you have simply you automatically, you should have this increase of the electrochemical potential, slowing down this, and accelerating this to obtain finally a non-polarized current in the non-magnetic material. And on the other side, you have to reestablish the polarization, and on the contrary, you have to do the inverse. Okay, all these things can be understood easily without calculations. Huh?
Yeah, it's kind of empirical. It's
You can do the same picture for all. It will be different, of course, but you have to think 5 minutes before having the figure for the holes.
How sensitive are these materials to impurities?
Okay.
And this effect due to impurities or vacancies
In this
in the system?
in this system, say magnetic material. Magnetic material, impurity, for example, for example, nickel doped with iron permalloy typically has a very large spin polarized current. But if you dope nickel with chromium, you can reverse. But nickel, cobalt itself, has still, even without impurity, only with defect, has some polarization. And in the non-magnetic materials, the impurity introduce spin flips due to the spin orbit of the impurity, and so reduce the spin diffusion length. Increase the resistivity and reduce.
Just a short question. There's something called chiral networks now using with photons, right? That you can have like a waveguide and then controlling the polarization of photons. If you have light, you can create some kind of chiral networks.
With circular polarization.
Yeah, exactly. So working with the polarizations, and you can create an optical diode. I don't know if with this configuration with the spins, you can somehow play with the polarization of the spins and create a chiral network, because it seems like now you are coupling to both propagation directions.
Creating what? A chiral what?
Diode?
A chiral.
Yes.
What do we call a chiral diode? No.
Yeah, it's like you prefer one direction of propagation of the signal, because here it seems like the spins can propagate either direction, right, to the left or to the right. But if you can somehow isolate the propagation into one direction, you have a diode. Like you put signal and you
Okay, you mean in the lateral spin valve?
Yes.
The electrons are going this way because the contact is on the left. Okay, simply because. And you say if you could orientate by using the spinel effect. If you inject here in the lateral spin valve, okay, the contact was only on the left, the current is going on the left, and there was only pure spin current on the right. Okay, but if you take into account is the material normally is a platinum, yeah, then the current that will be injected will be on the left or to the right. For example, for example, by injecting in platinum, finally you can observe a voltage between left and right simply by injecting vertically current in platinum. You create a there are spinel effect. All these spin-orbit effects give you this type of effect. For example, in topological insulator, you inject by spin pumping a current in the topological insulator, and you have a current flowing laterally on one side. And if you change the polarization of the injection, it will. So this sort of effect are typical of the symmetry of the spin orbit. Like, okay, also the interaction of the light, circular with matter also depends on the spin orbit of the material in which you are injecting. Okay, so all these effects are in the category of spin orbit induced effects, with light or with spin orbitronics.
I'd like to thank you for coming today. That would be all. And we will see you tomorrow at the same time.
Okay, tomorrow. Mañana.
Sorry, tomorrow I will say it in Spanish. Mañana van a estar sus constancias en la entrada de aquellos que hayan venido a las 4 sesiones. Okay, gracias.